Strikes erupt between the US and Iran, despite there being a ceasefire agreement between the two countries. Before we get into the specifics, Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, so look, we're gonna find out soon enough about whether we're delaying and doing all these stupid things that Sharon's gonna tell you about, the love taps, or love taps where you murder people, etc. But the real question is it just delaying for our ground troops to arrive and for our interceptor missiles to get restocked? Or are we actually ever gonna get to peace? And of course, the most important question will always be, what does Israel think? Because they rule the world and they will make this decision. But go ahead, Sharon.
So here are the details, Cenk. The US had carried out attacks on Iran in retaliation to a bombing campaign Iran leveled at the UAE earlier this week. In a response to that, Iran launched missiles at US destroyers passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump summarized, we'll say, the assault by saying this.
We took our 3 destroyers and we rammed them through some pretty big stuff today, and we knocked the hell out of them. The destroyers weren't hurt in any way. The people weren't hurt, but they were firing at us, and we were firing back at them. And our firepower was a hell of a lot stronger than theirs, and they knocked the hell out of them. Somebody said, "What's your plan?" I said, "The plan is very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It cannot have a nuclear bomb."
It's your president. He adopted a more aggressive tone on Truth Social, where he said, well, this: 3 world-class American destroyers just transited very successfully out of the Strait of Hormuz under fire. There was no damage done to the 3 destroyers, but great damage done to the Iranian attackers. They were completely destroyed, along with numerous small boats, which are being used to take the place of their fully decapitated navy. These boats went to the bottom of the sea quickly and efficiently. Missiles were shot at our destroyers and were easily knocked down. Likewise, drones came and were incinerated while in the air. They dropped ever so beautifully down to the ocean, very much like a butterfly dropping to its grave. A normal country would have allowed these destroyers to pass, but not Iran. It's not a normal country. They are led by lunatics, and if they had the chance to use a nuclear weapon, they would do it without question, but they'll never have that opportunity. And just like we knocked them out again today, we'll knock them out a lot harder and a lot more violently in the future if they don't get their deal signed fast. Goes on to talk about the 3 destroyers with their wonderful crews will now rejoin our naval blockade, which is, well, truly a wall of steel. President Donald J. Trump. So despite these escalating tensions, Trump maintains the ceasefire is still in place. He told ABC News the ceasefire between the US and Iran was still intact despite the attacks. He called the US attack a, quote, love tap. 2 countries are continuing with their negotiations. 3 Iranian officials close to the latest round of mediated negotiations, telling the New York Times the US wants Iran to commit to handing over its stockpile of enriched uranium. Close to 3 nuclear facilities, pause on enriching uranium for 20 years. Iran's counterproposal would have its uranium diluted, sent to a 3rd country, possibly Russia. It would put a pause on its uranium enrichment for 10 to 15 years. But the progress of these negotiations, that remains unclear as the continued fighting undercuts the Trump administration's claims of a ceasefire. Today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio commented on the issue while visiting Iran. He was skeptic. Pope Leo, he visited the Pope. Here's what Marco said: "We should know something today. We're expecting a response from them. And he said, we'll see what the response entails. The hope is it's something that can put us into a serious process in negotiations." However, Marco Rubio also added this: we've seen a report overnight that Iran has established or trying to establish some agency that's going to control traffic in the straits. That would be a problem. That would actually be unacceptable. So the messaging around this conflict is, well, not only confusing to us, but it appears it's it appears to confound former and current Trump loyalists, as made evident by a recent podcast with Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, where he said this.
I mean, I hope the possibility of ending it is real. I noticed that every time Axios announces an imminent end to the war, a lot of people make huge bets on oil futures right before it comes out and presumably make a lot of money on that. And then it never happens. It's my hope that the United States gets out as soon as possible. There will be damage. There already is damage. A lot of people have died. 12 countries have been bombed. Many thousands have been killed. The U.S. economy has been hurt. Lots of countries' economies are wounded by this.
So Megyn Kelly agreed with Tucker about his skepticism on the conflict ending, and here's what she had to say.
The priorities are definitely not on the pocketbooks of the American people, and they know it. But wait, I want to get back to what the pressure that they're putting on Trump not to enter into a deal. And I agree with you. I have no idea whether there's a 14-point deal or not. None whatsoever. I don't trust a word President Trump says about this anymore. He's told us 31 times that the Iran war is over. Okay, only to then tweet about how we're going to bomb them into oblivion.
Okay, so they even weighed in on who in Trump's orbit could be informing his policy and how easily Trump could be bought.
Miriam Adelson is not irrelevant. Paul Singer is not irrelevant. These are
you give Trump $200 million and you get his attention.
That's nicely put. That's exactly right.
I sense they're going to team up and try to get back on cable news. So harsh, but their criticisms of Donald Trump's inability to end the conflict seems justified, as Mediaite points out. Trump has repeatedly made contradictory claims about the conflict with Iran, asserting that the US had won the war in March, giving ultimately false timelines for the conflict, and constantly saying that Iran desperately wanted to make a deal as the war continued. Now, the desire to speculate an end to this conflict is born out of a genuine displeasure with the fact that the war continues to hold the US and global economy hostage with no clear aim in sight. Cenk, what are your thoughts, both on Megyn and Tucker teaming up there and seeming to be in lockstep, but overall, this conflict that is just seems completely out of Washington's hands?
Yeah, so I'll start with Megyn and Tucker. So I don't think they're going back to cable news. They're doing perfectly fine in online media, and they keep talking about how when they were on Fox News, they were basically controlled by the Murdochs and the talking points, and how they've broken free and they feel liberated. So on the other hand, could they team up for other things? Yeah, anything is possible, right? And including big things. Don't forget, Noble Mobile saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell, why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bill's only $50 a month, but it can actually be less because they give you money back if you don't use your data. So if you're paying more than $50, there's no reason to not switch. It's crazy not to switch because same phone, same number, same contacts, literally nothing changes. TYT.com/switch, TYT.com/switch. All right, we'll be right back. And for the moment being, what they're saying is 100% right on this issue. And so I'm very happy to have them saying things that are true to millions of right wingers in this country and independents. That's actually the first time in my lifetime that right wing media hosts have been telling the truth. Normally they do talking points about, if you give everything to the rich and tax cuts and they should pay no taxes and we should have endless wars. And so all the liars that I've seen in Fox News and corporate right-wing media my whole lifetime, to finally have a couple of conservatives telling the truth on super important issues is amazing to see and wonderful to see. And that's my take on it. Okay, now back to the war. So guys, there's a bunch of things we know and some things we don't know. So let me list that for you guys so you have a full sense of where we are today. So our destroyers got hit by the Iranians. So we're trying to ram through the blockade, and you could tell in Trump's lies. So he says, there wasn't too much damage done. Oh, okay, so there was damage done. No one got hurt. So that means they got hit, but they didn't sustain any casualties. That might not even be true, but everything he's telling you shows you that the destroyers got hit and they were not able to break the blockade. In fact, we know that. And what's, as usual, maddening about mainstream media is they write in the middle of their articles, yes, our warships got hit by Iran, but they don't make that the headline and they don't make a big deal out of it. That's a huge deal. We were not able to break the blockade. That means Iran continues to have leverage, and that determines how quickly we might be able to wrap this up, or that we get to a resolution or we don't. We need to know relevant facts, but both our government and our media constantly hide facts from you that are massively relevant. Okay, so our ships got hit. There's no question about that. Number two is, yes, we could not open the Strait of Hormuz. That is also clear. The Iranians say, yeah, we hit them and they turned around. And again, our media has confirmed that they were hit. And so when Trump says, oh, we steal right through the blockade, that's not remotely true. Otherwise, we'd be the Iranians would have no leverage, and we'd be offering them nothing, and we'd be bragging to no end. The Strait of Hormuz is open, and our warships opened it, and we crushed Iran. We're not saying that. We're saying the damage wasn't too bad. We didn't lose too many people. Okay, so we didn't make it. So I just want to be super clear, because the rest of the media is wishy-washy horse crap that buries the facts within their articles, but doesn't highlight the relevant part for reasons we could talk about another time. So in terms of the ceasefire, is there one or isn't there one? Well, we're bombing each other, so we haven't ceased fire. That's kind of obvious, right? At the same time, it is not at the level that it was before the ceasefire. So you can call that an all-out war, and this is, we'll come up with a new phrase for it now, an Israeli ceasefire. That means a ceasefire where you don't really, one side doesn't cease fire at all. And that's, of course, the Israelis in any given deal, including this deal. They're still bombing the hell out of Lebanon. They murdered dozens of people today. They murder every day in Lebanon. And then they go, oh no, we're allowed to violate the ceasefire because Hezbollah looked at us. And so since I didn't like the way they looked at us, I murdered 32 innocent Lebanese people today. Okay, I know, that's the Israelis. That's all they ever do. Murder, take land, and do self-defense. And our media comes and goes, oh, we need this war for Israel. I mean, for America, and we're not gonna tell you how badly it's going. And you know what, the poor Israelis, the poor Israelis. No, now we're copying their atrocious behavior like a double tap on a girls' school, hitting hospitals, etc. in Iran. It's disgusting. And now violations of ceasefires endlessly. Okay, number 4. Israeli pundits and Israel First pundits, which is almost all of them, right? There's 2 layers though, guys. There's the guys who are clearly Israel First, like Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham, both in media and politics, that are constantly pushing Israel's agenda. If there's ever a clean president and a clean US government, they should have investigations on whether they were literally coordinating with the Israelis, which would make them foreign agents and foreign assets. So that is a very worthy investigation, since they all have the same talking points and they are all in favor of Israel every single time. Where did those talking points come from? So that's group number 1. And then the group number 2 is the rest of mainstream media, which goes, oh yes, sir, of course, sir, sure, sir, we're not gonna correct you on anything, sir. Here's John Bolton saying they're about to have a nuke, we need to attack. Here's Lindsey Graham saying the same thing, and we're not gonna tell you that they work for Israel or defense contractors or anything. So that's how the mainstream media collaborates with Israel First pundits and politicians to betray you and to lie to you and to get you to agree to Israel's agenda. But in this case, the question is this an audience of one, or is this just laying the propaganda groundwork so that Americans could go, oh yeah, or at least 70-year-olds that watch Fox News and television, and people who still think New York Times is real news read it and go, oh my God, we should do everything Israel asked for. That's what the New York Times and CNN is telling me, because they told me, oh, we're about to get nuked. We're about to get nuked, right? So those are zombies, but those zombies vote a lot. And so that might be the reason why Israel First is all over television right now doing this. Or it might be that they're trying to reconvince Donald Trump, because they try to surround him with only supporters of Israel. And if anyone sneaks by that's not a supporter of Israel, then Laura Loomer comes by and goes, fire him, fire him. Who's this ludicrous lunatic coming in and totally irrelevant with no following whatsoever. But she's allowed to fire people because it's not Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer is representing Israel. So she's coming in and saying Israel wants this American fired. That one seems to be working for American government and American people. Fire him right away. And I'm gonna find anyone who doesn't work for Israel inside this government and have them fired. So that Trump if he's not fully controlled by them, is surrounded by only voices saying, Israel's right, do whatever Israel says. And that might, and since Trump only watches television and mainly watches Fox News, that's why they're all on Fox News going, what a great idea it would be to restart this war. It would be so easy, and you'd have no problems with oil or gas or prices, and we'll win. We're back to this garbage. So Sharon, the question there is, are they trying to convince Donald Trump, meaning that Donald Trump is convincible and hence hasn't made up his mind or isn't being blackmailed? And there's hope that he might actually get us out of this war because he's only 90% controlled by Israel and not 100% controlled, right? That's my great hope, okay? Now, I'm not saying that I believe that. I'm hoping against hope that he's only 90% controlled by Israel. The other possibility is, no, they're laying the groundwork for general propaganda so that the boomers think that this war is for America. Trump and Israel have already made up their mind and they're going to continue the war. That part, I don't know the answer to. What do you think?
I don't either, but even the boomers' grandkids come over sometimes and maybe turn on something else or maybe start a discussion. I think the hope, the only hope perhaps we have left, as bad a shape that we're in, is that Iran is supposedly this closed society where they can keep their people in the dark about what's really going on. But here, even with AIPAC and everything else, and the lore loomers and the people who are taking money on behalf of Israel to push a certain warmonger line, that's one thing. But there's still people like you who we as Americans have access to. So I just wonder how much longer this misinformation, blatant, just it's like up and down, up and down. How much longer are the American people going to sit with that and not revolt?
Yeah, and revolt with their viewership, their money, their votes in all these ways. I mean, one of the members asked earlier in the show, what can we do about this obvious massive control that Israel has over our government? Well, vote out all the bums. Almost all the incumbents work for Israel. 94% of them have taken contributions for Israel. They vote with Israel every single time. I've never seen Israel lose a vote in American Congress, while the losers on television, the liars on television, you sit there and go, oh no, you cannot say Israel controls America. That is anti-Semitic. You are a terrible person. Well, but brother, did they vote for what Israel wants 100% of the time? Yes, they did, but shut up, don't do the news. Don't do the news, then people might find out that Israel completely controls this country. That is what the reality is. We've got to break free. First step is take their power away. How do you take their power away? By voting out every incumbent who's ever taken any money from Israel or votes to give Israel money. Today, are you insane to give our money to slaughter innocent children? Obviously, you should vote those monsters out. And yes, brothers and sisters, if you're a Republican, I got really bad news for you. It's about 99% of your party, okay? And if you're a Democrat, I have really bad news for you, because a lot of Democrats that watch MSNBC were like, oh, but our guys are angels. No, they're not, they're monsters. Well over 80% of Democrats also work for Israel loyally and have my entire life. I've seen that, and whenever the Democrats are in charge, Israel also gets whatever they want, because they bought almost everyone. And it makes sense, guys. For every dollar they spend on a politician, they get $1,000 back. It's like the greatest robbery in the history of the world. They're not the only ones. Big Pharma does it, Big Oil does it, all the lobbyists do it. And then the second dollar you have to spend to protect the $1,000 you're stealing from all of us is to make sure you buy off the corrupt media, the CNNs and the New York Times, through advertisement, bullying, intimidation, so that they make sure that American people don't realize that they're being robbed. And this Iran war is nothing but a robbery. We have no interest in Iran. We have no reason to attack Iran. The only people who want this war are Israel, and they don't want to pay for it. And they don't want to send their soldiers to die there. So they say, hey, you stupid American suckers, I bought your media and I bought your government. Now go die for Israel and give me another $8 trillion to attack all of my neighbors and pretend it's a global war on terror. So that's the current state of affairs. Every terrible thing that has happened in this war is Israel's fault. And until we free ourselves from that ridiculous terrorist government, all we're gonna have is endless wars and endless robberies on behalf of beloved Israel that mainstream media loves so much and lies so much to protect, let alone our disgusting criminal politicians. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.